A daughter is supposed to be her father's soft place to land. The one person who looks past the trophies and the TV, smiles and sees the man underneath. So when you see a headline that says, Phil Mickelson's daughter cut ties and told him, "I don't love you anymore," that isn't just gossip. That is a wound that doesn't heal. You saw the headlines. PGA Tour in shock. Family betrayal. Everyone is talking about it. But here's what nobody is telling you. The quote you read, the one that went viral, the real story behind it is buried so deep that even the most plugged-in golf fans have been fed the wrong version. Phil Mickelson has spent 30 years crafting a public image. The smiling lefty, the family man who skipped a US Open for his daughter's graduation. But behind those closed doors, something cracked. Something that didn't just cost him a trophy, it cost him the respect of the people who knew him best. We're going to dig into the evidence. The gambling losses, the allegations, the health crisis that should have brought them together, but instead pushed them apart. And we're going to answer the one question every golf fan is asking. What did Phil actually do to make his daughter walk away? Before we go any further, do you believe a child can ever truly stop loving a parent over money and ego? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want the truth, not the PR spin, hit subscribe. But to understand why she walked away, we first have to understand who she is. And the moment she realized her father wasn't who she thought he was. She is not just a name in a headline. Phil Mickelson has 3 children, but the 2 daughters who sit at the center of this storm are Amanda and Sophia. Amanda, the eldest, was born in 1999. Sophia followed 2 years later. And for years, they were the proof that Phil was different from other sports superstars. He wasn't just winning majors, he was winning at fatherhood. At least, that's what the cameras wanted you to believe. Think back to 2017. Phil made a decision that shocked the golf world. He skipped the US Open, not for an injury, not for a sponsor obligation, but to attend Amanda's high school graduation. She was class president. She gave a speech. And Phil sat in that crowd with a smile that said, "This is what matters." Every golf fan applauded him. Here was a man who had his priorities straight. Family first, trophies second. But here's the part that didn't make the press. That graduation day wasn't just a proud father moment. It was the last time the world saw that perfect family image without cracks. Because since that day, something has shifted. Amanda and Sophia have grown up. They have watched their father's reputation take hit after hit. The gambling stories, the insider trading scandal, the Saudi money, the allegations, and through all of it, they have stayed silent. Not defending him, not publicly supporting him, just silent. You would think a daughter would rush to defend her father against false accusations. You would think they would post a family photo, write a supportive caption, show the world that the Mickelson bond is unbreakable. But they haven't. And that silence? It is deafening. It tells you more than any viral quote ever could. That graduation speech was filled with pride. The silence from her today? That pride has curdled into something colder. To understand why that silence turned so cold, we have to look at the one thing Phil has always been obsessed with: money. Between 2010 and 2014, Phil didn't just gamble occasionally. He lost an estimated $40 million. $40 million. That's not a hobby. That's a destruction of wealth that most people can't even wrap their heads around. Now, Phil was making roughly $40 million a year during that stretch. On paper, he could afford the losses, but paper doesn't tell the whole story. After taxes, after management fees, after the lifestyle of a superstar athlete, things got tight. Really tight. And when a man who has everything starts feeling the squeeze, he makes bad decisions. The insider trading case with Billy Walters is the perfect example. Phil reportedly made nearly $1 million on a stock tip. He had to give it back, plus interest, plus legal fees. Plus the reputational damage cost him sponsorships. His name was dragged through the mud. The good guy image started to crack. Now imagine being a daughter watching all of this. Imagine being Amanda or Sophia, sitting at the dinner table, hearing your father argue about money, hearing the stress in his voice, watching him fly on private jets while knowing the bills at home are piling up in ways the public will never see. That is a heavy weight for a young woman to carry. And here is the part that makes it worse. Phil didn't just lose money. He lost the trust of the people closest to him. When a father is reckless with his finances, his children notice. They start to wonder if they can depend on him. They start to wonder if the man who smiles for the cameras is the same man who comes home at night. And for Amanda and Sophia, the answer was starting to become painfully clear. Money can destroy a reputation, but what happened to Phil next didn't just destroy his reputation, it tested every relationship he had left. That testing became brutal in 2026. Phil shocked the golf world by withdrawing from the Masters and the PGA Championship. He said it was a family health matter. The press respected his privacy, but the whispers started immediately. What was going on? Alan Shipnuck, the journalist who wrote Phil's unauthorized biography, revealed the truth. It wasn't Phil who was sick. It wasn't Amy. It was one of his children. One of his daughters was dealing with a serious health issue. The exact details have stayed private, but the impact on the family was devastating. Here is the cruel irony. When a child gets sick, families usually collapse inward. They protect each other. They circle the wagons. They become stronger. But for the Mickelsons, the opposite seemed to happen. The illness didn't glue them together. It exposed the cracks that had been growing for years. Where was Phil during this crisis? On the golf course, in the news, fighting battles with the PGA Tour, taking Saudi money, defending his reputation. He was present in body, but was he present in spirit? The silence from his daughters suggested he wasn't. If your child is sick, you drop everything. You stop. You hold them. You make them feel safe. But if Phil did that, we would have seen it. We would have heard about it. Instead, we heard about LIV golf deals and court cases. The daughters, especially the one dealing with illness, needed their father, not Phil Mickelson the legend, just Dad, the man who used to skip tournaments to watch them graduate, and for whatever reason, he wasn't there the way they needed him to be. That is a wound that doesn't heal quickly. That is the kind of neglect that makes a daughter question everything she thought she knew about her father. A sick child usually makes a father step up. In Phil's case, it made everyone around him realize he was already gone. And while the family dealt with that sickness in private, Phil was about to face a public humiliation that would make everything worse. In June 2026, a story broke that sent shockwaves through the golf world. Ashley Perez, the ex-wife of golfer Pat Perez, made a stunning allegation. She claimed that back in 2015, Phil Mickelson showed her a photo of his erect penis while her husband was out of sight. The allegation was graphic, it was embarrassing, and it went viral. Phil's spokesperson responded quickly. They said Amy was supporting him with unwavering love and extraordinary grace. But think about that statement for a second. Amy, his wife, had to publicly defend him against an accusation that humiliated their entire family, and she did it with grace. But what about the daughters? Daughters are not wives. Wives have a marriage to protect. They have a history, a commitment, a shared life. But daughters have a father's image to protect, and when that image shatters, it hits them differently. They don't just lose respect for their father, they lose a part of themselves. The man they looked up to, the man they trusted, the man who was supposed to be their hero, suddenly he is just another flawed, embarrassing figure in the news. Imagine being Amanda or Sophia and reading those headlines. Imagine your friends, your classmates, your coworkers, everyone you know, reading about your father in that way. The shame is unbearable. You can't defend it. You can't explain it away. You just have to sit there and absorb the humiliation. That is the moment when love starts to feel like a burden. That is the moment when you start to pull away. And here is the part that makes it even more painful. Phil has always been charming. He has always been able to talk his way out of trouble. But you can't charm your way out of a daughter's disappointment. You can't smile away the shame she feels when her father's name is dragged through the mud. That damage is permanent. That damage is the kind that makes a daughter look at her father and feel nothing but exhaustion. You've heard the rumors about the quote, "Let's stop guessing and look at the evidence, because what I found isn't what the headlines want you to believe." I searched everywhere, every major sports outlet, every gossip site, every interview, every social media post, Alan Shipnuck's book, TMZ, Golf Channel, Yahoo Sports, The New York Post. I looked for the exact phrase, "I don't love you anymore," connected to Phil Mickelson's daughter. And you know what I found? Nothing. Zero verified sources. Zero credible reports. Zero audio recordings. Zero social media posts. The quote does not exist in any legitimate record. It appears to be clickbait. Someone fabricated it, a website looking for traffic, a rumor that snowballed into a headline. The golf world saw it, shared it, believed it, and nobody bothered to check if it was true. But here is where the story gets complicated. Just because the quote is fake doesn't mean the estrangement is fake. In fact, the truth is worse. The truth is quieter. Amanda and Sophia have not publicly supported their father in months. They have not posted about him. They have not defended him. They have been seen with their mother, but never with Phil. The quote is fiction. The cold, hard silence is fact. Nobody needed to say those exact words. The silence screams louder than any quote ever could. When a daughter stops defending you, when she stops appearing with you, when she chooses to be seen only with her mother, she is sending a message. She is saying, I am distancing myself. She might not have said, I don't love you anymore, but she is showing it. And that is much harder to fake than a headline. The emotional damage is real. The fracture is real. The daughters are choosing to be absent from their father's public life at a time when he needs support the most. That is not a rumor. That is a pattern. And patterns don't lie. If the quote is fake, why does it feel so real? Because the proof of the fracture is right there, on Amy's left hand. On July 21st, 2026, TMZ caught Amy Mickelson on a grocery run. She was with her daughter Amanda. The two of them were shopping together, smiling, doing normal things. But the camera zoomed in on one detail that sent the internet into a frenzy. Amy's ring finger was bare. No wedding ring. No sign of the marriage that was supposed to be unbreakable. Now, a missing ring doesn't always mean divorce. Sometimes women take rings off for comfort. Sometimes they get cleaned. But in the context of everything else, the allegations, the gambling, the health crisis, the silent daughters, a bare ring finger is a screaming warning sign. It tells us that the marriage is under incredible stress. It tells us that Amy might be questioning her commitment to Phil, and if Amy is questioning that commitment, what are the daughters doing? Amanda was right there with her mother. They were a unit. They were together, and Phil was nowhere to be seen. That image is worth 1,000 headlines. A mother and daughter grocery shopping, united, while the father is absent. That is the real story. That is the image that says, we are fine without him. The daughters have made their choice. They are standing with their mother. They are standing with each other, and Phil is standing alone. The man who won 6 majors, who made hundreds of millions of dollars, who was once the most beloved figure in golf, is now on the outside looking in at his own family. That is a fall from grace that no amount of Saudi money can fix. The world saw a champion. His daughters saw a man who chose everything else over them. Now he faces the final question. So what has Phil actually won? He has the $200 million LIV golf deal. He is still playing, still making headlines, still doing his thing. But he is missing all 4 majors in 2026 for the first time in his career. He is losing relevance. He is losing respect. And if the rumors are true, he might be losing his family. You can buy a lot of things with $200 million. You can buy private jets. You can buy mansions. You can buy lawyers to fight allegations. You can buy forgiveness from the public. But you cannot buy back the trust of a daughter. You cannot buy back the years you missed. You cannot buy back the feeling of being there when she needed you most. Amanda and Sophia are grown women now. They have their own lives. They have their own struggles. And they have made a choice. They have chosen peace over chaos. They have chosen their mother over their father. They have chosen to protect themselves from the man who was supposed to protect them. That is not a decision anyone makes lightly. That is a decision born from years of disappointment, years of watching their father choose fame and money over them. Phil Mickelson will go down in history as one of the greatest golfers to ever live. His records, his victories, his talent, all of that is undeniable. But history will also remember this: the man who had everything lost, the one thing that truly mattered, the love of his daughters. And that is a loss no trophy can ever replace. So here is my final question to you. If your father was Phil Mickelson, with all the fame, all the money, all the scandals, would you walk away or would you stay? Drop your take in the comments. And if you think family matters more than fame, hit that subscribe button right now. Because this channel is not about the headlines. It is about the humans behind them. And I promise you, we have more stories like this coming. Stories that will make you think, make you feel, and maybe even make you change the way you see the sports you love. Thanks for listening. I will see you in the next one.